I struggled with weight gain, so I reached out to a dietitian for support. Some of her tips were top notch, and some were interesting. Hi, I'm Hannah, and welcome back to the channel where we talk all about weight gain, eating disorder recovery, and mental and physical health. In today's video, I'll share my best weight gain tips, a weight gain day in the life, and my favourite shakes and hacks for weight gain. I'll also share why I reached out to this dietitian recently and the tips I received from her, the good and the slightly odd. Also, if you missed last week's video on my plant-based 40-sip experience, go and check that out first. My past weight gain experience. Growing up in Belgium, I've always had a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, bread, potatoes. A typical standard meal could literally be boiled potatoes, boiled celery, and a protein. And while I loved the Belgian cuisine, when I had my eating disorder, when I was going through my recovery journey, there was definitely some things that I had to reconsider. What didn't work? Simply adding more fruit, potatoes, vegetables. I found that soon enough I'd reached my stomach's capacity and not all that many calories were coming in. What did work was adding more density, maybe swapping out some of the existing foods with higher calorie ones, eating more frequently, and increasing those portions over time too. For me, concretely, that might have looked like having a 40-sip as soon as I woke up. When my parents were up, maybe an hour later, we'd then have breakfast together. Say, several sandwiches with cheese. As a mid-morning snack, I might then have yogurt, fruit, dried fruits, nuts, granola. And for lunch, we'd all eat together. Pasta with added cream, added cheese, full fat products, and obviously some vegetables and a protein source there too. In the afternoon, another snack. Often this would be a pastry, it could be ice cream, it could be toast, and oftentimes a banana milkshake or a 40-sip or some kind of drink again as well. In the evening, again, we'd have dinner together, cooking once again with full fat products. Asking ourselves, where can we add more density? Could we add cream to the mashed potatoes? Could we add a whole bunch of bechamel sauce? Would cheese be a good addition to this? Any more oil, butter, etc., etc. Before bed, another snack. Often nuts, dried fruit, a yogurt bowl, or, whatever I craved. And another drink. The main swaps I made there, relying on drinks other than water, eating more frequently, adding cheese, cream, oil, nuts, nut butters to absolutely everything. Listening to my extreme hunger when that did come up for me in my recovery. Swapping any lower fat products with higher fat, full fat, whole dairy. Focusing on density above absolutely anything else. Getting the calories in really was the most important thing. And focusing on things that just sat right. That would have been easier to digest rather than bulking up on volume foods. Loads of fibre and things that would have messed up my digestion. Anyway, this was my journey and it worked. I gained about 20 kilos. So when I recently went to talk to a dietitian, this felt odd. Not in the least because this whole journey has been long left in the past, but also because I now have my own nutrition degree. Because I never actually worked one-to-one with a dietitian in my recovery journey, and because some of these recommendations felt a little bit odd and basic, and yeah, we'll dive into that. Here's how it went. First off, when I spoke to the dietitian and shared what I was eating in a day, she told me that it was pretty spot on. I'm now plant-based, but a day in the life does include a whole lot of dense foods, nuts and seeds, grains, avocados, all the good stuff. I'm not just eating fruit and veggies 24/7. I get my fair share of those. I focus on adding enough protein, But the most important thing is still to get enough energy in to function, to fuel my body. So the dietitian was pleased to see that. Rather than send over a meal plan, which wouldn't necessarily have been all that useful, she therefore sent me over a document with some tips and some snack ideas, which I obviously found super interesting to dive right into. If you're interested in that full list, message me with the subject line dietitian snacks and I'll send you through that document. Anyway, while that list is full of some awesome suggestions, bagels with avocado, tahini, banana and peanut butter, dried mixed fruits, no porky sausage rolls. There's also a few that made me giggle. For example, a tin of baked beans with 50 grams of vegan cheese, or the other 100 grams of tofu with 30 grams of nut butter. I don't know, they just tickled me. Of course, since receiving that document, I've gone and tested out every single recipe, and honestly, I can't thank this lady enough. I think a lot of the time just feeling listened to, a lot of the time being able to connect, knowing that you're intentionally doing something about your health and well-being, that is a massive thing. There's honestly nothing worse than not feeling listened to or feeling invalidated. So, thank you. The document included a massive list of snacks, but there were also general recommendations for adding density to all meals and snacks, and how to approach just a generally healthy, weight gain focused diet, plant-based. They also sent me 2 plant-based 40 sips to sample, which I did and which you can watch in last week's video. If you haven't seen that yet, I recommend it. It was a massive throwback for me because back in the day, I used to have 2, 3, 4 a day, every day for quite a while. Anyway, I never enjoyed them all that much, and I personally much preferred homemade shakes. So let's go and make one of the dietitian recommended shakes, and let's go and make my own personal favourite. So the first smoothie we're making is the dietitian's chocolate and vanilla ice cream smoothie. I don't have any regular vanilla ice cream in, but I've got Magnums. I also don't have any cocoa powder, but as I said, I've got Magnums. Let's make it. This second smoothie is a spin-off my green machine smoothie in the recipe ebook. I'm adding a homemade nut and seed butter for some extra fats, some avocado for some extra fats, and I'm using a flavored protein powder just to make it tasty, and obviously bananas for the creaminess. I think it's going to be divine. Right, blending is complete, but before I taste test, I just wanted to share the reason why I added spinach and why I added greens. First off, this is an incredible way to get in your 30 plants because it's honestly full of some amazing goodness. But also I know that at the time of my recovery, I'd be eating big salads and still trying to get my veggies in, yada yada yada. And it just made me feel really full. So throwing a whole bunch of spinach in there, reducing it down to barely anything, is a great way to get your vegetables in without volume eating, without feeling uncomfortable. So let's taste test. I think I made this one quite thick, but anyway. Dietitian's ice cream shake. That's good. That's very good. Personally, I'd still add a whole bunch of bananas and some kind of fats, but it's not bad. Green sludge. Winner. You can obviously add more soy milk. I like my smoothies thick. This is very thick, especially with the avocado, the bananas, the nut butter. It's very thick. But you do you. Let me know your favorite smoothie recipe, shake recipe in the comments, and let me know if you try any of these out. Lots more in my recipe ebook too. I'm gonna go and complete a bit more work and drink this without even really noticing these extra calories that I'm consuming, or maybe not to the same extent as if I were eating this, if you know what I mean. Final thoughts. First off, I'll definitely keep some of these tips and hacks in mind. Even though a lot of these things are things that I already do, it never hurts, if you're trying to put on weight, to be more intentional about these actions, about these steps. So for example, for me, while I already add a tablespoon of peanut butter to my porridge in the morning, it might make me pause. Could I add just a little bit more? Could I maybe nudge that portion up a little bit more today? Ask yourself these same things. Where could you be more intentional with your nutrition today? That said, personally, I wouldn't ever stick to the recommendations to the dot. If you're given a meal plan, consider it a minimum. Consider it a guideline. Consider it a tool. As for me, I'm not just going to sit here and eat a block of tofu with peanut butter. Don't get me wrong. I love tofu. I love peanut butter. But next time, I'll pop that tofu in the air fryer. I'll add some miso to the peanut butter and make a sauce. That's how I would make this plan mine. How I would make it work. How I would make it fun. How I would make it sustainable for myself and my journey. Do the same. Anyway, for now, in the comments, let me know. What is your best weight gain hack? And what is your weirdest recommendation? I can't wait to read your comments, to share more about my journey, to share more about my tips. Let's just say there's a lot coming. There's a lot coming. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. See you soon.